The fluorescent lights of Harrington Global's 52nd floor buzzed softly in the silence. Brielle Thompson rubbed her tired eyes, staring at the spreadsheet that had consumed the last 14 hours of her life. Her fingers cramped around her phone as she scrolled through old messages, seeking comfort in memories of her grandmother, the woman who raised her after her mother died and her father left. 3 months. It had been 3 months since Grandma Rose passed away, and the grief still felt fresh as morning dew. Brielle's thumb hovered over the last text conversation they'd had, reading the words over and over. "You worked too hard, baby girl. Come home and let me make you some proper food." She hadn't gone home that weekend. The project deadline was too tight. And then Grandma Rose had a stroke 2 days later. Tears blurred Brielle's vision as she started typing in her messages app. "I miss you so much. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I chose work over you that last weekend. I would give anything to hear your voice again." Her thumb hit send before her brain registered what she'd done. But she hadn't been in her grandmother's message thread. She'd been in her work messages. The text had gone to Julian Harrington, the CEO, the billionaire owner of Harrington Global. The man who barely knew she existed despite her 2 years of loyal service. No. Brielle's hands shook as she tried to unsend the message, but the option had disappeared. It was read. Already read at 11:30 at night. Her heart slammed against her ribs. This was it. Her career was over. She'd be fired for inappropriate communication with the CEO. She'd have to move back to her grandmother's empty house in Georgia, live off savings until she found something else. All because of one stupid, grief-stricken mistake. The elevator dinged. Brielle's head snapped up. Nobody else was supposed to be on this floor. The junior analysts worked in the pod area near the windows, and everyone else had left hours ago. She was always the last one here, the girl who worked hardest, hoping someone would notice. Footsteps. Expensive shoes on marble floors. Her breath caught as Julian Harrington himself walked around the corner. He stood 6 feet 2 inches tall, with dark brown skin that gleamed under the office lights, close-cropped hair showing the first hints of silver at the temples, and eyes that seemed to see straight through corporate nonsense to the truth beneath. He wore a blue dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, no tie, and black slacks that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He stopped at her desk. Brielle shot to her feet so fast her chair rolled backward and hit the wall. "Mr. Harrington." "Sir. I'm so sorry. That message wasn't meant for you. It was an accident. I was texting my grandmother, except she's passed away and I wasn't thinking and I just—" "Stop," Julian said quietly. His voice was deep and warm like expensive bourbon. "Brielle, right? Brielle Thompson?" "Yes, sir." Her voice came out as a whisper. "You've been here 2 years. Top performance reviews every quarter. You stay later than anyone else. You fixed the Matsuda account when 3 senior analysts couldn't figure it out." He stepped closer and Brielle caught the scent of cedar and something expensive. "I know exactly who you are." Her mouth went dry. "You do. I make it my business to know the people who keep this company running." Julian's eyes softened as he looked at her. "I'm sorry about your grandmother. I lost mine 12 years ago. She raised me. I still miss her every single day." Brielle felt tears threatening again. "I don't know how to work without talking to her about it at the end of the day. She always wanted to hear about my projects, even when she didn't understand any of it. Mine was the same way." Julian pulled out the chair from the neighboring desk and sat down, gesturing for Brielle to sit as well. She did, stunned that the CEO was sitting in her work pod at nearly midnight. I'd explain quarterly reports and she'd nod along, then ask if I was eating enough vegetables. A small laugh escaped Brielle despite everything. Grandma Rose always asked if I had a boyfriend yet. She worried I worked too much to meet anyone. Smart woman. Julian's lips curved into a slight smile. Was she right? About working too much or not having a boyfriend? Both. Brielle met his eyes and found unexpected kindness there. Yes to both. Julian nodded slowly as if considering something. When he spoke again, his voice was gentle but firm. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home and get some sleep. Tomorrow night you're going to have dinner with me. Not as your boss, just as someone who understands what you're going through. And you're going to accept because your grandmother would want you to accept kindness when it's offered." Brielle opened her mouth to protest, to say it wasn't appropriate, to list all the reasons this was a terrible idea. But then she remembered Grandma Rose's voice. "Baby girl, when someone offers you help, you say thank you. Pride is expensive and kindness is rare." "Okay," Brielle heard herself say. "Thank you." "Good." Julian stood and Brielle scrambled to her feet as well. I'll have my assistant send you the details. Dress comfortably. This isn't a business dinner. He walked toward the elevator, then paused and turned back. Brielle? That message you sent. The one that was meant for your grandmother. Her stomach dropped. Yes. Say it again. What? Julian's expression was vulnerable in a way that didn't match his reputation as a ruthless businessman. Say it again. It's been a long time since anyone has said they miss me and actually meant it. Brielle's heart squeezed. Here was a man worth billions, surrounded by hundreds of employees, probably with a phone full of contacts, and he was lonely, just like her. I miss you, she said softly. Something shifted in Julian's eyes. Warmth. Connection. Oh. I'll see you tomorrow, Brielle. He stepped into the elevator, and just before the doors closed, she heard him say, I miss you too. Have you ever sent a message to the wrong person and had it change your entire life? What would you do if a billionaire CEO responded to your most vulnerable moment? Drop a comment below and subscribe to see how Brielle and Julian's story unfolds. Their journey is just beginning, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Brielle stood outside Magnolia's, a restaurant she'd only read about in lifestyle magazines. The kind of place where reservations were booked 3 months in advance and entrees cost more than her weekly grocery budget. She smoothed down her green dress, a simple A-line that had been her church dress for the past 2 years. It was the nicest thing she owned that wasn't work attire. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb and Julian stepped out. He wore charcoal gray slacks and a white button-down shirt, casual by his standards but still impossibly elegant. When he saw her, his face lit up with a genuine smile that made her heart skip. You look beautiful, he said, offering his arm. Thank you. Brielle took his arm, trying to ignore how natural it felt. I've never been anywhere like this. Good. I want tonight to be special. He led her inside, where the host greeted him by name and immediately showed them to a private corner table. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, lights twinkling like earthbound stars. After they ordered, Julian leaned back in his chair and studied her. Tell me about your grandmother. Most people avoided talking about loss, changing the subject to something more comfortable. But Brielle found herself wanting to share. Grandma Rose was a housekeeper for 40 years. She cleaned office buildings downtown, worked nights so she could take care of me during the day. She never complained once, even when her knees hurt so bad she could barely walk. She sounds incredibly strong. She was everything. Brielle's voice caught. When my mom died giving birth to me and my dad took off because he couldn't handle being a single parent, Grandma Rose stepped in without hesitation. She was 60 years old and ready to retire, but instead she raised a baby. She paid for my education, encouraged me to dream bigger than our neighborhood, told me I could be anything. Julian reached across the table and took her hand. The gesture was so natural, so comforting that Brielle didn't pull away. She was right. Look at what you've accomplished. I wanted to give her a better life. A house with a garden, vacations, nice things. I was so close. Another year, maybe 2, and I would have been promoted to senior analyst. The money would have been enough. Brielle blinked back tears. But I ran out of time. She knew you loved her, Julian said firmly. The money wouldn't have mattered to her. You mattered. How do you know? Because my grandmother was the same way. Julian's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. My parents died in a plane crash when I was 8. Grandmother Cecilia took me in. She was a retired schoolteacher, living on a small pension in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn. She gave me her bedroom and slept on the couch for 10 years. Brielle squeezed his hand. I'm so sorry. She taught me that wealth isn't about money. It's about love, purpose, and making a difference. Julian's eyes grew distant with memory. When I made my first million, I bought her a house. A beautiful brownstone in Park Slope with a garden. She cried, but not because of the house. She cried because she said I hadn't forgotten where I came from. Did she get to enjoy it? 5 years. Then her heart gave out one morning while she was tending her roses. Julian's voice roughened. I would give every dollar I have for one more conversation with her. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, 2 people bound by shared grief and understanding. The waiter brought their food and they talked about easier things. Brielle's work on the Matsuda account, Julian's plans for international expansion, their shared love of old movies and jazz music. I have a question, Brielle said as they finished dessert. Why did you really ask me to dinner? You could have just ignored that text. Julian set down his fork and met her eyes directly. Because in 2 years of working at my company, you've never asked for anything. Not a favor, not special treatment, not even a day off when you had the flu. You work harder than anyone else, You're brilliant at what you do, and you deserve to be seen. I'm just doing my job. No, you're exceeding every expectation while grieving and staying humble. Julian leaned forward. But that's not the only reason. When I read that text, I felt something I haven't felt in years. A genuine human connection. Everyone in my life wants something from me. Money, status, access, connections. But you didn't even mean to send me that message. It was real. You were real. Brielle's breath caught. I'm just a junior analyst. You're a woman who loved her grandmother enough to work yourself to exhaustion trying to give her a better life. You're someone who sends messages to heaven because the love doesn't stop just because someone's gone. Julian's voice dropped to almost a whisper. You're exactly the kind of person I've been looking for without even knowing I was searching. What happens now? Brielle asked. Now, I'm going to offer you something, and you're going to accept it because saying no would be denying both of us something special. Julian's eyes held hers. I want to spend more time with you. Not as boss and employee but as two people getting to know each other. Will you let me take you to dinner again? And again after that? Brielle thought of all the reasons she should say no. Office politics, power dynamics, the risk to her career if things went wrong. But she also thought of Grandma Rose's voice. Baby girl, sometimes the right thing is the scary thing. Don't let fear steal your joy. Yes, Brielle said. I'd like that very much. Julian's smile could have powered the entire city. Thank you. As he drove her home later that night, Brielle realized something had shifted in her world. The grief was still there, the missing was still heavy, but now there was something else too. Oh, the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't meant to walk through this loss alone. Julian walked her to her apartment building door, a modest structure in a working-class neighborhood. He didn't seem to notice or care about the difference between her world and his. I meant what I said earlier, he told her. About you being seen. You're remarkable, Brielle. Don't ever forget that. Before she could overthink it, Brielle stood on her tiptoes and kissed his cheek. Thank you for tonight. For listening. For understanding. Julian touched the spot where her lips had been, his eyes warm. This is just the beginning. Brielle watched him drive away, then went inside and called up to where she imagined her grandmother might be. I think you'd like him, Grandma. I think you'd tell me to hold on tight to this one. The apartment didn't answer, but Brielle swore she felt a warmth in the air, like approval, like love that transcended death itself. Monday morning arrived with the sharp clarity of autumn sunshine streaming through Harrington Global's floor-to-ceiling windows. Brielle sat at her desk, trying to focus on the quarterly projections for the healthcare division, but her mind kept drifting to Saturday's dinner. To Julian's hand holding hers. To the way he'd looked at her like she mattered. Brielle Thompson? A woman's voice cut through her thoughts. Brielle looked up to find Caroline Martinez, Julian's executive assistant, standing beside her desk. Caroline was a striking woman in her 40s with perfect posture and a red power suit that commanded respect. Yes. Mr. Harrington would like to see you in his office. Please bring your tablet and any notes you have on integrated market analysis. Whispers rippled through the pod area as Brielle stood. She could feel eyes following her as she gathered her things. Nobody got called to the CEO's office unless something was very right or very wrong. The executive floor was a different world from the analyst pod. Thick carpet muffled footsteps, original artwork lined the walls, and everyone moved with the quiet efficiency of those working close to power. Caroline led her to massive double doors and knocked once. Come in, Julian's voice called. The office was enormous, with a sitting area, a conference table, and a desk that looked like it belonged in a museum. But what caught Brielle's attention was the wall of windows showing the entire city spread out below like a kingdom. Julian stood by those windows, hands in his pockets, looking every inch the billionaire CEO in a navy suit that fit him perfectly. When he turned and saw her, though, his corporate mask slipped for just a moment. His eyes softened and he smiled. Brielle. Thank you for coming up. He gestured to the conference table. Please sit. She sat, trying to project confidence she didn't quite feel. You wanted to discuss integrated market analysis? I want to discuss the future of this company. Julian sat across from her, not at the head of the table but right across as if they were equals. For the past 6 months I've been developing a new division. Healthcare technology integration. We're going to revolutionize how hospitals, clinics, and insurance companies share data while maintaining patient privacy and improving outcomes. Brielle's mind immediately started racing through the implications. The infrastructure alone would require complete systems overhaul for most facilities. Exactly. Which is why we need someone brilliant to help design the implementation strategy. Julian slid a folder across the table. I want you to be the lead analyst on this project, working directly with me and the development team. Brielle opened the folder and felt her jaw drop. The scope was massive. Partnerships with 3 major hospital networks, collaboration with 2 tech giants, a budget that had more zeros than she could quickly count. Mr. Harrington, I appreciate the offer, but there are senior analysts with much more experience. Julian, he interrupted gently. When we're discussing work, you can call me Julian. And I don't want senior analysts who think they know everything. I want someone hungry, someone who sees possibilities instead of problems, someone who will challenge me when I'm wrong. This is a career-making opportunity, Brielle said slowly, understanding the weight of what he was offering. People will talk. They'll say I only got this because. She trailed off, but Julian finished the thought. Because we had dinner Saturday night. Because I clearly have personal feelings for you that I'm not particularly good at hiding. Brielle's heart hammered. I don't want special treatment. Then prove you deserve it. Julian's eyes challenged her. Take the position. Work harder than everyone else, which I know you will because that's who you are. Blow everyone's expectations out of the water. Show them that I chose you because you're the best person for the job, which you are. And if I say no? Then I'll respect your decision, though I'll be disappointed both professionally and personally. Julian leaned back in his chair. But I think your grandmother would tell you to stop second-guessing yourself and accept the blessing that's being offered. He was right and they both knew it. Grandma Rose had always pushed her to be brave, to reach for more. I accept, Brielle said. And thank you. Don't thank me yet. This project is going to consume your life for the next year. Julian grinned. We'll be working late nights together, weekends, probably some holidays. Think you can handle that much time with me? Despite the professional setting, Brielle felt warmth bloom in her chest. I think I can manage. They spent the next 3 hours diving into the project details. Julian was different in work mode, focused and intense, asking questions that pushed her thinking to new levels. But every so often, she'd catch him looking at her with something beyond professional respect, and she'd lose her train of thought completely. We should bring in Marcus. Julian stopped himself. Actually, I want your opinion. Who from the current analyst team would be best suited for the data security component? Brielle considered the question carefully. Trevor Park. He's in the international division now, but his background is cybersecurity. He thinks like a hacker, which is exactly what we need to stress test the system. Excellent choice. Make it happen. Julian made a note on his tablet. This is why you're perfect for this role, Brielle. You know people's strengths and you're not threatened by bringing in other talented people. As the afternoon wore on, Caroline knocked and entered with a catered lunch. Thought you two might need this. You've been in here for hours. Thank you, Caroline. Julian waited until she left before turning to Brielle with a softer expression. I may have asked her to clear my afternoon schedule. You did not. I did. The Matsuda call can wait. Right now, building this project foundation is more important. He passed her a container of pasta. Besides, I like working with you. They ate and talked, the conversation flowing between professional strategy and personal stories. Brielle learned that Julian had built his first company from his college dorm room, that he was terrified of heights despite living on the top floor of a skyscraper, that he donated 60% of his wealth to education initiatives. Why education? Brielle asked. Because my grandmother believed it was the only thing nobody could ever take from you. Julian's expression grew thoughtful. Knowledge, skills, the ability to think critically. Those are the tools that let people escape poverty, abuse, limited thinking. I can't save everyone, but I can give people the tools to save themselves. Brielle felt something shift in her chest, a deepening respect that went beyond attraction. That's beautiful. It's practical, Julian corrected, but his eyes were warm. Like hiring the smartest person in the building to run my most important project, regardless of her current title. About that, Brielle said carefully. If I'm going to be lead analyst on this, I need to be honest with you about something. I'm listening. The other analysts are going to resent me. They'll think I slept my way into this position. They'll make my life difficult. Brielle met his eyes steadily. I can handle that. I've handled worse. But I need to know that when things get ugly, and they will, you'll let me fight my own battles. Julian was quiet for a long moment. What if I don't want you to have to fight those battles alone? Then I'll never know if I'm actually good enough, or if I'm just the girl the CEO is protecting. Brielle's voice was firm. I need to prove myself, Julian. Not just to them but to me. You're already good enough. Better than good enough. But Julian nodded slowly. Okay. I'll follow your lead on how to handle the office politics. But Brielle? If anyone crosses a line into harassment or sabotage, I will step in. That's not negotiable. Fair enough. They shook on it, their hands lingering together for a moment longer than necessary. As the sun began to set outside, painting the city in shades of orange and pink, Julian walked Brielle to the elevator. Thank you for trusting me with this project. And with your truth. Thank you for seeing something in me worth investing in. Brielle pressed the button for her floor. I won't let you down. I know you won't. Julian's hand caught the elevator door before it could close. Brielle? Would you have dinner with me again this weekend? Somewhere quiet where we can just talk. She smiled. I'd love to. As the elevator descended, Brielle pulled out her phone and looked at the last photo she had of her grandmother. Grandma Rose stood in their tiny kitchen, wearing her church dress and the proud smile she always had when Brielle accomplished something. I'm doing it, Grandma, Brielle whispered. I'm reaching for more. I'm being brave. I hope you're proud. When she returned to her desk to gather her things, she found a note that hadn't been there before. She opened it to find Julian's handwriting. You don't need to hope. She is proud. And so am I, Jay. Brielle tucked the note into her wallet, next to the photo of her grandmother, and walked out of Harrington Global with her head held high. Tomorrow the real work would begin. Tomorrow she'd have to prove she deserved this chance. But tonight she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, the universe was finally giving her the blessing she'd worked so hard for. 3 weeks into the healthcare integration project, and Brielle had never worked harder in her life. She arrived at the office by 6 every morning and rarely left before 9 at night. The project was as complex as Julian had warned, requiring coordination across multiple teams, vendors, and stakeholders. But it was also exhilarating, the kind of challenge that made her feel alive. Her relationship with Julian had grown in quiet moments stolen between meetings. Coffee brought to her desk with a note. His hand brushing hers when they reviewed documents. Late-night phone calls that started about work and ended with them talking about everything else. They'd had 2 more dinners, and each time, Brielle felt herself falling a little more for the man behind the billion-dollar reputation. On Thursday afternoon, Caroline appeared at Brielle's new office, a promotion that had come with the project role. Mr. Harrington would like to see you. He says it's personal, not project-related. Brielle's stomach flipped. In the office they maintained careful professional boundaries. Personal meetings during work hours were rare. She found Julian at his desk, looking uncharacteristically nervous. He stood when she entered, running a hand over his hair. Everything okay? Brielle asked. Yes, maybe. I hope so. Julian took a breath. I have something to ask you and I need you to say yes. Brielle raised an eyebrow. That's not how consent works. Despite his nervousness, Julian laughed. Fair point. Let me rephrase. I would very much like you to say yes and I hope you will, but I'll understand if you need time to think about it. Better. What's the question? My aunt wants to meet you. Brielle blinked. Your aunt? Aunt Patricia. She's my grandmother's younger sister, the only family I have left. Julian perched on the edge of his desk. She's 83, sharp as a tack, and possibly the most important person in my life. When my grandmother died, Aunt Patricia stepped up. She didn't raise me, I was already an adult, but she's been my anchor, my conscience, my reminder of where I come from. And she wants to meet me, Brielle said slowly, understanding the significance. I may have mentioned you, Julian admitted. Several times. And she called me this morning to say that any woman who could make me talk that much must be worth meeting. Brielle's heart raced. Meeting family was serious, the kind of step that meant this was real, moving forward, becoming something that couldn't be easily dismissed. When? Sunday dinner. At her house in Connecticut. Julian stepped closer. I know it's a big ask. We've only been seeing each other for a few weeks. But Aunt Patricia is insistent and honestly, I want you to meet her. I want her to know you. Then yes, Brielle said without hesitation. I'd be honored to meet her. Julian's shoulders dropped in visible relief. Thank you. I should warn you she's going to interrogate you. I can handle interrogation. Brielle smiled. I survived your interview process, didn't I? Sunday arrived crisp and clear, the first real taste of autumn. Julian picked Brielle up in a different car this time, a comfortable SUV instead of his usual sedan. She wore a maroon dress that Grandma Rose had bought her for college graduation, pairing it with modest jewelry and low heels. You look beautiful, Julian said when she slid into the passenger seat. But I should mention Aunt Patricia won't care about your dress. She's going to care about whether you can hold your own in a debate and if you make me happy. No pressure then. Brielle fastened her seatbelt. The drive to Connecticut took just over an hour. They talked about work, carefully avoiding the topic of the dinner ahead. But as Julian exited the highway and wound through increasingly residential streets, Brielle felt anxiety building. What if she doesn't like me? She asked quietly. Julian reached over and took her hand. She'll love you. How could she not? Aunt Patricia's house was a charming cottage with a wraparound porch and a garden full of late-blooming flowers. As they pulled into the driveway, the front door opened, and a small woman with silver hair and dark skin stepped out. She wore purple slacks and a floral blouse, leaning on a cane but standing straight and proud. "There's my boy," she called out, her voice strong despite her age. Julian helped Brielle out of the car, then strode up the porch steps to embrace his aunt. Brielle hung back, giving them a moment, but Aunt Patricia's sharp eyes found her immediately. "And you must be Brielle. Come here, child. Let me look at you." Brielle climbed the steps, and Aunt Patricia took her hand, studying her face with an intensity that made Brielle feel seen all the way through. "Beautiful," the older woman pronounced. "But more than that, there's kindness in your eyes. Strength too. You've known loss." "Yes, ma'am. I lost my grandmother 3 months ago." Aunt Patricia's grip tightened on her hand. "Then you understand what it means to carry someone's love with you even after they're gone. Come inside. Dinner's almost ready, and I want to hear everything about you." The house was cozy, filled with family photos and the smell of something delicious cooking. Aunt Patricia led them to a dining room where the table was set for 3 with fine china and fresh flowers. "You didn't have to go to so much trouble," Julian protested. "Hush. When am I going to get another chance to cook for the woman who might become my niece?" Aunt Patricia winked at Brielle, who felt her cheeks warm. "Now sit both of you. Brielle, tell me about your grandmother." As they ate perfectly seasoned chicken, roasted vegetables, and homemade rolls, Brielle found herself opening up about Grandma Rose. Aunt Patricia listened with the kind of attention that made you want to share everything, nodding and asking questions that showed she really cared. "She sounds like she was a remarkable woman," Aunt Patricia said. "My sister Cecilia was the same way. Worked her fingers to the bone to give Julian opportunities, never complaining, always finding joy in the small things." "I see so much of her in him," Brielle said, glancing at Julian. "The way he values education, how he remembers where he came from, his commitment to lifting others up." "Not everyone would recognize that," Aunt Patricia observed. "Most people just see the money and the power. You look deeper." After dinner, Aunt Patricia shooed Julian into the kitchen to do dishes while she and Brielle sat on the porch with tea. The autumn air was cool but not cold, and the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant colors. "My nephew is in love with you," Aunt Patricia said without preamble. "I've known him his whole life, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Brielle's breath caught. "We've only been seeing each other a few weeks. Time doesn't measure love. Connection does." The older woman sipped her tea. "He told me about the text message. About how you didn't mean to reach out to him, but it was exactly what he needed. Do you believe in divine timing, Brielle?" "I do now." "Good. Because I think my sister and your grandmother had something to do with bringing you two together." Aunt Patricia's eyes twinkled. "They're up there plotting, making sure their babies find happiness." Brielle laughed through sudden tears. "Grandma Rose would have loved that theory. Tell me something, child. Are you afraid of Julian's wealth? His position?" "Sometimes," Brielle admitted. "Not of him but of what it means. The scrutiny, the assumptions people make, the power imbalance." Honest answer. "I appreciate that." Aunt Patricia set down her teacup. "Let me tell you something about my nephew. He's never cared about what people think of him, and he doesn't tolerate anyone disrespecting the people he loves. If you're worried about protecting yourself, don't be. That boy would burn down the world for you." "That's what I'm afraid of," Brielle confessed. "I don't want to be someone he has to protect. I want to be someone who stands beside him." Aunt Patricia reached over and patted her hand. "Then you're exactly what he needs. Someone with her own strength, her own voice, her own power. Promise me something?" "What?" "Don't let fear steal your joy. I've lived 83 years, and the only regrets I have are the chances I didn't take because I was scared." Aunt Patricia's voice grew soft. "My sister Cecilia used to say that love is always worth the risk." "Always? Do you believe that?" Brielle thought about Grandma Rose, about the love that still sustained her even after loss. "Yes, I believe that." "Then hold on to him and let him hold on to you." Aunt Patricia smiled. Now go tell him to stop pretending to wash that same plate. He's been standing at the sink for 10 minutes trying to eavesdrop on us. Brielle found Julian exactly where Aunt Patricia said, hands in soapy water, staring out the kitchen window. When he saw her, he dried his hands quickly. So, what did she say? Did she approve? Are you running for the hills? Instead of answering, Brielle walked over and wrapped her arms around him. Julian held her close, his heart beating steady against her ear. She's wonderful, Brielle whispered. Thank you for sharing her with me. Thank you for making her smile like that. I haven't seen her this happy in years. Julian pulled back just enough to look at her face. I meant what I told her, you know. About loving you. Brielle's heart soared. I know. I feel the same way. They stood there in Aunt Patricia's kitchen, holding each other as the sky outside darkened to purple, and somewhere Brielle imagined two grandmothers smiling down at them, pleased with the love they'd helped create. What would you do if you met the family of someone you'd only been dating a few weeks? Would you trust in divine timing or would fear hold you back? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to see how Brielle and Julian navigate the challenges ahead. Their love story is about to face its first real test. Monday morning brought the storm Brielle had been expecting since the day Julian gave her the project. She arrived at her office to find a printed email on her desk. Someone had leaked the news about her relationship with Julian to the entire company. The email was professional in tone but vicious in implication. It questioned her qualifications for the healthcare integration project, suggested favoritism, and included a timeline that made it look like she'd been pursuing Julian from the day she was hired. The worst part was that some of it was based on truth just twisted into something ugly. Brielle's hands shook as she read it. She'd known this was coming, had prepared herself for judgment and gossip, but seeing it in black and white was different. Seeing her career reduced to who she was dating hurt more than she'd expected. You've seen it? Julian's voice came from her doorway. He looked furious, his jaw tight and his eyes blazing. Who sent this? It doesn't matter. Brielle set down the paper carefully. What matters is how we respond. We respond by firing whoever did this. Julian stepped into her office and closed the door. This is harassment. It's creating a hostile work environment. It's exactly what I told you would happen, Brielle interrupted gently. And you promised to let me handle it my way. Julian visibly struggled with himself, the protective instinct warring with respect for her wishes. Tell me what you need. I need you to let me prove myself. Brielle stood and met his eyes. The healthcare integration presentation is in 2 weeks. We're pitching to the board and the hospital network partners. Let my work speak for itself. Your work has always spoken for itself, Julian argued. You don't have anything to prove. But I do. Not to you but to everyone else. To myself. Brielle walked around her desk. I know I'm qualified for this role. I know I earned it. But I need everyone else to know that too. And the only way to make that happen is to deliver results so undeniable that nobody can question them. Julian cupped her face in his hands. You're the strongest person I know. I learned from the best, Brielle said, thinking of Grandma Rose. Now go back to your office before we give them more ammunition. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Brielle worked 18-hour days, refining every aspect of the presentation. She coordinated with Trevor Park on security protocols, brought in specialist consultants, ran stress tests on the proposed systems. She ate lunch at her desk and skipped coffee breaks. She was determined to be beyond reproach. The whispers followed her everywhere. In the elevator, people stopped talking when she entered. In the cafeteria, groups fell silent as she passed. Someone left a printed definition of nepotism on her desk. Another left a magazine article about billionaires who dated their employees. Brielle threw them all away without comment and kept working. Julian respected her boundaries, maintaining professional distance in the office even though she could see the effort it cost him. But every evening her phone would buzz with a text. You're brilliant. Don't let them make you forget that. Aunt Patricia called. She told me to remind you that you're a warrior. I'm proud of you. Always. Those messages kept her going when the doubt crept in during the quiet hours. The night before the presentation, Brielle stayed at the office until 2 in the morning, going over every slide one more time. When she finally gathered her things to leave, she found Julian waiting by the elevator. You're still here, she said. I've been in my office all night, pretending to work but mostly just making sure you weren't alone. Julian stepped closer. Are you ready for tomorrow? I think so. The presentation is solid. The numbers are good. The implementation timeline is realistic but ambitious. That's not what I asked. Julian took her hands. Are you ready for what happens after? Because when you walk into that boardroom tomorrow and blow everyone away, everything changes. The people who doubted you will have to accept that you belong here. But some of them won't want to accept it. They'll find new ways to diminish what you've accomplished. Brielle had thought about this. I know. But I also know that I can't spend my life trying to prove myself to people who are determined not to see my value. I can only do my best work and let the results speak for themselves. I love you, Julian said suddenly. I know this isn't the time or the place, but I need you to know that. No matter what happens tomorrow, no matter how people react, I love you for exactly who you are. I love you too. Brielle stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. Now go home and get some sleep. We both need to be sharp tomorrow. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Brielle wore a blue suit that made her feel powerful, paired with the pearl earrings Grandma Rose had worn on special occasions. As she set up her presentation in the executive boardroom, she touched the earrings and whispered, "Help me do you proud, Grandma." The room filled with people. The board members, all powerful executives used to making billion-dollar decisions. The representatives from the 3 hospital networks, skeptical but interested. The tech company partners, evaluating whether Harrington Global could deliver on its promises. And Julian, sitting at the head of the table, his face carefully neutral but his eyes warm when they met hers. Good morning, everyone, Brielle began, her voice steady and clear. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Over the next hour, I'm going to show you how Harrington Global's healthcare integration system will revolutionize patient care while protecting privacy, reducing costs, and improving outcomes across the board. She spoke with confidence born of preparation and knowledge. She answered every question with precision and depth. When the head of St. Michael's Hospital Network tried to poke holes in her security protocols, she walked him through the 7-layer encryption system Trevor had designed, then demonstrated how it worked in real time. When the tech partners questioned the implementation timeline, she showed them the phased rollout plan, complete with contingencies for delays and methods for measuring success at each stage. When a board member suggested the project was too ambitious for someone at her level, she looked him in the eye and said, "With all due respect, sir, ambition is exactly what this project needs. Safe thinking won't revolutionize healthcare. Bold vision combined with meticulous execution will." The room fell silent. Then Julian spoke for the first time since the presentation began. "I think what Brielle is too modest to say is that she spent the last month working harder than anyone else in this company. She's coordinated 17 different teams, brought in specialists from 6 countries, and created something that I believe will change the industry. I gave her this project because I knew she was the best person for the job. She's proven me right." The board chair, a woman in her 60s named Dorothy Chin, leaned forward. "I have one question, Miss Thompson. Not about the project but about you. There's been talk about your relationship with Mr. Harrington. How do we know this project isn't just an expensive favor to someone he's dating?" Brielle had prepared for this question. She looked directly at Miss Chin and answered clearly. "You can know because you've just seen 2 hours of work that speaks for itself. The analysis is sound, the strategy is solid, and the projected outcomes are achievable. My personal relationship with Mr. Harrington doesn't change the quality of my work. If anything, it means I have even more motivation to exceed expectations, because I know people are watching for me to fail." She paused, then added, "But if you'd like to assign an external audit team to review every aspect of this project, I welcome that. I have nothing to hide." Miss Chin smiled slowly. "That won't be necessary. I've seen enough." She looked around the table. All in favor of approving the healthcare integration project and Ms. Thompson's continued leadership of it? Every hand went up. Brielle felt her knees weaken with relief, but she kept her expression composed. "Thank you. I won't let you down." As the room cleared, people congratulated her. Even the ones who'd questioned her most sharply seemed impressed. The hospital network representatives asked to schedule follow-up meetings. The tech partners wanted to discuss potential expansions. Julian was the last to leave. He stopped by her chair and leaned down to whisper, "You were magnificent. I knew you would be." "Thank you for believing in me," Brielle whispered back. "Always." Julian straightened and addressed the room in his normal voice. "Miss Thompson, excellent work today. I look forward to seeing this project move forward." Professional. Appropriate. But Brielle saw the pride and love in his eyes. That evening, as Brielle packed up her office, her phone rang. It was Aunt Patricia. "Julian called me. He said you conquered the room today." "I did my best," Brielle said. "And your best was extraordinary, just like I knew it would be." Aunt Patricia's voice was warm. Your grandmother would have been so proud. I hope you know that. Brielle felt tears prick her eyes. I hope so. I know so. Now go home and rest. You've earned it. As Brielle rode the elevator down, she reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. She'd found love, faced doubt, and proven herself. The journey wasn't over, but she was stronger for having walked this far. And she knew, somehow, that Grandma Rose was smiling down at her, proud of the woman she'd become. 3 weeks after the successful board presentation, life had settled into a new rhythm. Brielle's position was secure, the healthcare integration project was moving forward smoothly, and her relationship with Julian had deepened into something steady and real. They'd even started talking about her moving from her small apartment into his penthouse, though Brielle wanted to wait until the project's first phase was complete to avoid any appearance of impropriety. She was reviewing vendor contracts in her office when her phone rang from an unknown number. Normally she'd let it go to voicemail, but something made her answer. Hello? Baby girl? Is that you? Brielle's entire body went cold. She knew that voice, though she hadn't heard it in 15 years. Dad. Yeah, it's me. It's your father. Marcus Thompson sounded older, rougher, but unmistakably him. I've been trying to find you for a while now. Saw your name in a business article about some big healthcare project at Harrington Global. My daughter working for a billionaire. I couldn't believe it. Brielle's hand tightened on the phone. What do you want? Is that any way to talk to your old man? I just wanted to reconnect. Maybe see you if you're willing. Every instinct screamed at Brielle to hang up. This man had walked away when she was 3 months old, leaving Grandma Rose to raise her alone. He'd never sent money, never called, never once tried to be part of her life. And now, suddenly, when she had a good job and a connection to wealth, he wanted to reconnect? But she also heard Grandma Rose's voice in her head. Everybody deserves a chance at redemption, baby girl. Maybe not a second or third chance, but at least one. Where are you? Brielle asked carefully. I'm in the city. Been here about 6 months, working construction when I can get it. Look, I know I got no right to ask anything from you. I know I wasn't there when you needed me. But I'm trying to get my life together now, and I thought maybe... He trailed off, and Brielle heard something in his voice. Desperation. Fear. The sound of a man at the end of his rope. Meet me for coffee, she heard herself say. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock at the cafe on 5th and Main. Just coffee. Nothing else. Thank you, baby girl. Thank you so much. I'll be there. After he hung up, Brielle sat staring at her phone for a long moment. Then she called Julian. Hey, beautiful. What's up? My father just called me. Silence. Then, your father who abandoned you as a baby? That's the one. Brielle took a shaky breath. He wants to meet. I said yes. Do you want me to come with you? Julian asked immediately. No. I need to do this alone. But I needed to tell you because I don't want any secrets between us. Okay. But Brielle? Be careful. People who've been absent for 15 years don't usually show up without wanting something. I know. I'll be careful. I promise. The next day, Brielle arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. She chose a table by the window where she could watch people passing on the street, trying to spot her father before he saw her. She wasn't sure she'd even recognize him. But when he walked in, there was no doubt. Marcus Thompson looked like an older, worn version of the man in the single photo Brielle had of him. He was tall and lean, his dark skin weathered by time and hardship. He wore work clothes that had seen better days and carried himself with the uncertain posture of someone used to disappointment. He spotted her and smiled, and Brielle saw her own eyes looking back at her. It was unsettling. Brielle, look at you. All grown up and beautiful. He slid into the seat across from her. You look like your mama. I wouldn't know. I never met her. The words came out sharper than intended, but Marcus just nodded. Fair enough. I deserve that and worse. They ordered coffee and Brielle waited. She wasn't going to make this easy for him. I guess I should start with I'm sorry, Marcus said finally. I was 22 when your mama died giving birth to you. I was scared and stupid and selfish. I couldn't handle being a single father, couldn't handle the responsibility. So I ran. Left you with my mama and disappeared. For 15 years. For 15 years, he confirmed. I moved around, worked odd jobs, got into some trouble. Drinking mostly, some gambling. Lost more money than I ever made. But about 2 years ago I hit bottom. Woke up in a hospital after a bar fight and realized I'd wasted my whole life running from my mistakes. And now you want forgiveness? Brielle asked. No. I know I don't deserve that. Marcus met her eyes. But I want a chance to at least try to make amends. I got sober 2 years ago. Been working steady for the past year. I'm trying to be the man my mama always believed I could be, even though she's not here to see it. Brielle's throat tightened. She never stopped talking about you. Even after everything, she said you were still her son, still worth loving. Tears filled Marcus's eyes. She wrote to me sometimes. I never answered. I was too ashamed. And then I heard she passed, and I realized I'd lost my last chance to tell her I was sorry. They sat in silence for a moment. Brielle wanted to be angry, wanted to punish him for the years of absence, for the burden he'd placed on an elderly woman who should have been enjoying her retirement. But she also saw genuine remorse in his face. Why now? She asked. Why contact me now? Marcus hesitated, then said, because I'm sick. Got diabetes from years of not taking care of myself. Lost my job last month because I can't do heavy construction anymore with my blood sugar so out of control. I'm about to lose my apartment. There it was. The real reason. You need money? Brielle said flatly. No. Marcus shook his head quickly. I mean, I do need help, but that's not why I called. I called because my mama's last letter to me said that if I ever got right with myself, I should find you. Tell you I was sorry. Try to be some kind of father, even if it's too late. He pulled a worn envelope from his pocket and slid it across the table. Brielle recognized her grandmother's handwriting immediately. She sent this 6 months before she passed. I finally opened it last week. With shaking hands, Brielle opened the letter and read. Marcus, my son, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I have to try one more time. I'm getting old and I won't be here forever. When I'm gone, Brielle will be alone in this world. She's strong and smart and capable, but everyone needs family. If you're reading this, I hope it means you've found your way back to being the man I raised you to be. If you have, please find your daughter. Tell her about her mama, about the good parts of you that got lost along the way. You can't undo the past, but you can try to build a future. Brielle has a big heart just like her mama did. If you're truly sorry, if you're truly trying to change, she'll give you a chance. That's who she is. But don't you dare take advantage of her kindness. She deserves better than that. I love you, son. I always will. Mama. Brielle's vision blurred with tears. Even in death, Grandma Rose was taking care of her, trying to give her the family she'd always wanted. I don't have much, Marcus said quietly. But what I do have is the truth. I was a terrible father. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I let my mama carry a burden that should have been mine. Those are facts and I can't change them. But I'm trying to be better now. And if you'll let me, I'd like to get to know you. No expectations, no demands. Just a chance to finally be your father, even if I don't deserve it. Brielle thought about what Julian had said about people wanting something. And maybe her father did want something. But what he wanted was forgiveness and redemption. And those were things Brielle had the power to give. You need help with your medical bills, she said. I can't accept money from you. That's not why. Stop. Brielle held up a hand. Grandma Rose always said that when someone needs help, you help them. No conditions, no judgment. You're sick, you're struggling, and you're my father. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to help you get into a program that manages diabetes. I'm going to help you find a job you can physically handle. And I'm going to give you a chance to prove you've really changed. Marcus stared at her. Why would you do that for me? Because Grandma Rose asked me to in that letter. Because everyone deserves a chance at redemption. And because refusing to help someone who needs it would make me bitter, and I refuse to let bitterness steal my joy. Brielle stood and held out her hand. This doesn't mean I trust you yet. You have to earn that. But I'm willing to give you the chance to try. Marcus stood and took her hand, then pulled her into a hug. He smelled like soap and hope and years of regret. Thank you, baby girl. I won't let you down. I swear I won't. We'll see, Brielle said, but she hugged him back. That evening she told Julian everything. They sat on his penthouse balcony, the city spread out below them like a carpet of lights. Are you sure about this? Julian asked, his arm around her shoulders. No. But I'm doing it anyway. Brielle leaned into him. I don't know if he's really changed. I don't know if he'll stay sober or follow through. But I know I'll regret it if I don't at least try. Then we'll try together, Julian said. I'll set up meetings with the best endocrinologist in the city for his diabetes. We'll find him a job through one of our partner companies. And if he's serious about being in your life, he'll have to prove it. Brielle looked up at him. You think I'm going to let you handle this alone? Julian kissed her forehead. Your family is my family now. That's how this works. Brielle felt warmth bloom in her chest. I love you. I love you too. And I'm proud of you for choosing kindness even when you had every right to choose anger. As they sat together in the gathering darkness, Brielle thought about the letter from her grandmother. Even from beyond the grave, Grandma Rose was guiding her, teaching her that love and forgiveness were stronger than hurt and resentment. Thank you, Grandma, Brielle whispered to the stars. I'm trying to make you proud. And somewhere in the universe, she imagined Grandma Rose smiling, pleased with the woman her baby girl had become. The call came at 3 in the morning. Brielle fumbled for her phone, heart pounding with the instinctive fear that early morning calls brought. Hello. Brielle, it's Julian. I need you to come to the office. Now. She sat up, instantly alert. What's wrong? Anderson Technologies is attempting a hostile takeover. The board is meeting in 2 hours and they're going to demand I step down as CEO to save the company. Brielle was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The Harrington Global building was eerily quiet at this hour, just the security guard and the cleaning crew. Brielle rode the elevator to the executive floor, where lights blazed from the conference room. Inside, she found Julian surrounded by papers, his tie loosened and his eyes tired. Tell me what's happening, she said, closing the door behind her. Julian ran a hand over his face. Richard Anderson has been buying up shares of Harrington Global for the past 6 months. He now controls 38%. He's calling for a vote of no confidence in my leadership, citing the healthcare integration project as too risky and too expensive. If he gets the board's support, he can force me out and dissolve the project. Why would he want to do that? The project is sound. Because Anderson Technologies was developing their own healthcare integration system. Ours is better and they know it. If our project succeeds, it will make their system obsolete. So instead of competing fairly, they're trying to destroy us from the inside. Brielle's mind raced through the implications. What does the board say? They're scared. Anderson is offering to buy their shares at a premium if they vote with him. Some of them are ready to take the money and run. Julian looked at her with exhaustion and something else. Defeat. The worst part is that Anderson is using our relationship against me. He's arguing that I'm letting personal feelings compromise business judgment, that I gave you the healthcare project as a favor, that the company's resources are being wasted on nepotism. That's garbage and everyone knows it. But it's effective garbage. Julian stood and walked to the window. The board is meeting at 5. They're going to ask me to choose between you and the company. Brielle felt ice form in her stomach. What are you going to say? I'm going to tell them to go to hell. Julian turned to face her. I'm not sacrificing you to save my position. I'm not letting them bully us into pretending our relationship doesn't exist or matter. And I'm sure as hell not abandoning the healthcare project just because Richard Anderson is afraid of honest competition. Julian, you can't throw away your company for me. Watch me. His eyes were fierce. I built this company from nothing, but it's just a company. You're the woman I love. There's no choice here. Brielle crossed the room and took his hands. Then we fight. We fight for the company and for us and for the project. We don't let Richard Anderson win by forcing you to choose. The board has already made up their minds. Then we change their minds. Brielle pulled up the project files on her tablet. We have 2 hours before that meeting. Let's use them. They worked frantically, pulling together every piece of positive data from the healthcare integration project. Patient outcome improvements from the pilot program. Cost savings projections. Letters of support from the hospital networks. Testimonials from the tech partners. At 4:30 Julian's phone rang. It was Dorothy Chin. Julian, before this meeting starts, I need to know something. Are you willing to remove Ms. Thompson from the healthcare project to save your position? Julian put the phone on speaker so Brielle could hear. No, Ms. Chin. I'm not. Brielle is the most qualified person for that role, and removing her would be bowing to corporate blackmail. I won't do it. Even if it costs you the company? Even then. There was a long pause. Then Ms. Chin said, Good. That's the answer I was hoping for. I'll see you in 30 minutes. At 5 o'clock sharp, the board filed into the conference room. 12 powerful executives, all looking serious and uncomfortable. Richard Anderson was there too, smug and confident in his expensive suit. Julian stood at the head of the table, Brielle beside him. He'd asked her to present with him and she'd accepted immediately. Good morning, Julian began. I know why we're here. Mr. Anderson wants to force me out as CEO and dissolve the healthcare integration project. Before you vote on that, I'd like you to hear from the person who knows this project better than anyone. Brielle Thompson, please. Brielle stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. 3 months ago this project was just an idea. Today it's changing lives. Let me show you what we've accomplished. She walked them through everything. The pilot program at St. Michael's Hospital that had reduced patient readmission rates by 23%. The data-sharing protocols that had helped doctors catch a medication error that would have killed a child. The cost analysis showing that full implementation would save the healthcare system billions of dollars annually. This isn't just a business project, Brielle concluded. It's a moral imperative. We have the ability to save lives and improve healthcare for millions of people. The question is whether we have the courage to see it through. Richard Anderson leaned forward. That's a very pretty speech, Miss Thompson. But it doesn't change the fact that this project is draining resources and producing uncertain returns. The board's responsibility is to protect shareholder value, not chase feel-good fantasies. Is that what you call saving lives? A feel-good fantasy? Brielle met his eyes directly. Or are you just afraid that our system is better than yours, and you'd rather destroy it than compete fairly? Anderson's face reddened. I don't have to listen to accusations from a junior analyst who slept her way into a position she's not qualified for. The room went silent. Julian stood so fast his chair fell backward. That's enough, he said, his voice deadly quiet. You will not speak about Brielle that way. You will not question her qualifications. And you sure as hell won't use misogyny and lies to cover for the fact that your company's product is inferior to ours. Julian, sit down, Dorothy Chin said. But there was steel in her voice when she turned to Anderson. And Mr. Anderson, that kind of language is not acceptable in this boardroom. Miss Thompson has proven her worth repeatedly. Your personal attacks undermine your credibility, not hers. Anderson stood. Fine. Let's put it to a vote. All in favor of removing Julian Harrington as CEO and dissolving the healthcare integration project, raise your hand. 3 hands went up. 9 remained down. Anderson stared in shock. What? We had an agreement. We had a conversation, one of the board members said. But after seeing Miss Thompson's presentation and witnessing your behavior, I've changed my mind. This project is too important to kill, and Julian Harrington is still the best person to lead this company. Dorothy Chin stood. The vote fails. Mr. Harrington remains CEO, and the healthcare integration project continues. Mr. Anderson, I suggest you focus on improving your own company's products rather than trying to sabotage ours. Anderson looked around the room, realizing he'd lost. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Julian said. Security will escort you out. You're no longer welcome in this building. After Anderson left, escorted by 2 very large security guards, the board members approached Brielle one by one to congratulate her. Even the ones who'd initially raised their hands admitted that her passion and results had swayed them. When the room finally cleared, Julian pulled Brielle into his arms. You saved us. You saved everything. We saved it together, Brielle corrected. That's how we work, remember? Together. That afternoon, Julian called a company-wide meeting. Every employee gathered in the main atrium, curious and nervous after the morning's drama. Julian stood on the second-floor balcony, looking down at hundreds of faces. Brielle stood beside him, her hand in his. This morning, someone tried to destroy this company from the inside, Julian began. They failed, but in the process they revealed something important. There are people who will always try to tear down what others build. People who choose destruction over creation, fear over courage, dishonesty over integrity. He paused, then continued. I'm proud to work alongside people who choose differently. People like Brielle Thompson, who could have backed down when threatened but instead stood up and fought for what she believed in. People like all of you who work hard every day to build something meaningful. Julian turned to Brielle. I have an announcement to make. Effective immediately, Brielle Thompson is being promoted to Vice President of Healthcare Innovation. She will have full authority over the integration project and a seat at the executive table. Because when someone proves their worth over and over again, you recognize it. The atrium erupted in applause. Brielle felt tears prick her eyes as colleagues she'd never even spoken to cheered for her. Furthermore, Julian said, waiting for quiet, I want to address the rumors about my relationship with Miss Thompson. Yes, we're dating. Yes, I care about her deeply. And no, that doesn't change the fact that she's earned every opportunity she's been given through her own talent and hard work. He looked directly at Brielle. I won't apologize for loving someone who makes me want to be better. I won't hide our relationship to make others comfortable. And I won't tolerate anyone who tries to use our personal lives as a weapon against professional excellence. Later that night, in Julian's penthouse, they celebrated with takeout Chinese food and champagne. Vice President, Brielle said, still not quite believing it. I'm a vice president at 27 years old. You're a vice president because you earned it, Julian corrected. And this is just the beginning. Give it 5 years and you'll be running your own division. What about us? Brielle asked quietly. After everything that happened today, are you sure you want to keep doing this? Dealing with the scrutiny and the judgment. Julian set down his champagne and pulled her close. Brielle, listen to me. I would fight Richard Anderson and 100 people like him every single day if that's what it takes to keep you in my life. You're worth every battle, every challenge, every difficult conversation. I love you, Brielle whispered. I love you too. Julian kissed her softly. Now let's eat this Chinese food before it gets cold because I have a feeling we're going to need our strength. We still have a healthcare system to revolutionize. As they ate and talked and planned for the future, Brielle thought about how far she'd come from that night 3 months ago when she'd accidentally sent a text to the wrong person. That one moment of vulnerability had led to love, career growth, and a partnership that made her stronger. Somewhere, she imagined Grandma Rose raising a glass in celebration, proud of the woman her baby girl had become. 6 weeks after the failed takeover attempt, life had settled into a new normal. Brielle had moved into Julian's penthouse. Her father had completed his first month of diabetes treatment and was working as a logistics coordinator at one of Harrington Global's partner companies, and the healthcare integration project was ahead of schedule. Brielle was reviewing implementation timelines when Julian appeared in her office doorway with 2 cups of coffee and a nervous expression. I need to ask you something, he said. That sounds ominous. Brielle accepted the coffee. What's up? Julian sat across from her. Every year, I host a charity gala to raise money for educational programs for children who've lost parents. It's the most important event I do all year, honoring my grandmother's memory and giving back to kids who are going through what I went through. That's beautiful. This year, I want you to co-host it with me. Julian leaned forward. I want you beside me, greeting guests, giving a speech, showing the world that we're partners in every way that matters. What do you think? Brielle didn't hesitate. I think yes. Absolutely yes. When is it? 3 weeks from Saturday. Black tie, about 500 guests at the Metropolitan Museum. Julian's relief was visible. Thank you. This means everything to me. It's an honor to be included, Brielle said honestly. Tell me what I need to do. Over the next 3 weeks, Brielle threw herself into gala preparations alongside her regular work. She met with the event planners, reviewed the guest list, helped select the menu. She worked with the foundation director to understand which programs would receive funding and how they changed children's lives. The more she learned, the more passionate she became. These programs provided tutoring, counseling, college scholarships, and mentorship to children who'd lost one or both parents. Kids like Julian. Kids who needed someone to believe in them when the world felt impossibly dark. One evening, as she and Julian reviewed the program for the event, Brielle had an idea. What if we added something to the gala? A new initiative. What are you thinking? A fund specifically for children being raised by grandparents. Brielle's voice grew animated. There are thousands of kids like I was, being raised by elderly relatives who love them but struggle financially. What if we created scholarships and support programs specifically for them? Julian was quiet for a long moment, then pulled her into his arms. That's perfect. We'll announce it at the gala. The Rose Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund. Brielle felt tears well up. You want to name it after my grandmother? She raised an incredible woman who's changing the world. She deserves to be honored. Julian kissed her forehead. What do you think? I think she would have loved it. Brielle wiped her eyes. And I think I need to write one hell of a speech. The night of the gala arrived with crisp autumn air and a sky full of stars. Brielle wore a floor-length red gown that made her feel like royalty. Julian wore a classic tuxedo, and when he saw her, his eyes lit up with such love that she felt beautiful all the way to her soul. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. Ready. The Metropolitan Museum was transformed into an elegant wonderland. String lights hung from the ceiling, white flowers adorned every surface, and a string quartet played soft classical music. Guests in designer gowns and expensive tuxedos mingled with champagne, their jewelry catching the light. Brielle and Julian stood at the entrance, greeting each arrival. Business leaders, celebrities, politicians, all interested in supporting Julian's cause. Some of them looked at Brielle with curiosity, clearly wondering who she was. Julian introduced her as his partner without hesitation. Aunt Patricia arrived wearing purple silk, her eyes twinkling with pride. Look at you two. absolutely radiant. She pulled Brielle aside while Julian greeted the next guest. "How are you holding up?" "I'm nervous about the speech," Brielle admitted. "Don't be. Just speak from your heart. Talk about your grandmother, about what she meant to you, about why this cause matters." Aunt Patricia squeezed her hand. "You're going to do beautifully." Halfway through the evening, Julian took the stage to welcome everyone and thank them for coming. Then he introduced Brielle. "Many of you know my story. I lost my parents young and was raised by my grandmother. What you might not know is that the woman standing beside me tonight has a similar story. Brielle lost her mother at birth and was raised by her grandmother Rose, a woman who worked as a housekeeper for 40 years so her granddaughter could have opportunities she never had." He turned to Brielle, love clear in his eyes. "Brielle showed me that we can honor our grandmother's memories by helping others who are walking the same path we walked. Please welcome her to share something special with you tonight." Brielle took the microphone with shaking hands. 500 faces looked up at her expectantly. She thought of Grandma Rose and felt courage flow through her. "Good evening. Thank you for being here and for supporting these incredible programs." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "My grandmother Rose raised me in a tiny apartment in Georgia. She worked nights cleaning office buildings, came home exhausted, but always made time to help me with homework, to listen to my dreams, to tell me I could be anything I wanted to be." Brielle's voice strengthened as she continued. "She never got to retire. She never got to travel or experience luxury. But she gave me something more valuable than money. She gave me love, stability, and the belief that I mattered. Tonight, I'm honored to announce the creation of the Rose Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund, dedicated to children being raised by grandparents." She explained the program, how it would provide educational support, financial assistance, and recognition for the grandparents who stepped up when parents couldn't or wouldn't. "These grandparents are heroes," Brielle concluded. "They're raising children when they should be resting. They're stretching limited budgets to cover growing kids. They're attending parent-teacher conferences in their 70s and 80s. They deserve support, celebration, and gratitude. I hope you'll join us in honoring them." The applause was thunderous. Guests stood, many with tears in their eyes. And when Brielle left the stage, people surrounded her to share their own stories of grandparents who'd raised them, or children they knew in similar situations. By the end of the night, the gala had raised over $3 million. $1 million of that was designated specifically for the Rose Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund. Julian found Brielle on the museum steps, taking a moment to breathe in the cool night air. "You were incredible tonight," he said, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders. "I meant every word." Brielle leaned into him. "I wish Grandma Rose could have been here to see it." "She was here. I'm sure of it." Julian turned her to face him. "Brielle, I've been planning to do this differently, but tonight feels right. You talk about your grandmother giving you the belief that you mattered. You've given me that same gift. You've shown me that success isn't about money or power. It's about partnership, purpose, and love." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Brielle's breath caught. "I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. You challenge me, inspire me, and make me want to be the best version of myself." Julian opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring with sapphires on either side. "Will you marry me?" Brielle felt tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes." Julian slipped the ring onto her finger, then kissed her as applause erupted from the museum entrance. Neither of them had noticed that guests had gathered to watch, drawn by the romantic scene. Aunt Patricia pushed through the crowd, laughing and crying at the same time. "About time, nephew. I was wondering when you'd get around to this." As the crowd congratulated them, Brielle looked up at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, Grandma, for everything. I hope you're proud." And in her heart, she knew that Grandma Rose was not just proud but overjoyed, celebrating in whatever realm existed beyond this one. The night ended with Brielle and Julian dancing under the stars, planning a future that honored their past while embracing all the possibilities ahead. The engagement announcement hit the news cycle like a hurricane. Within 24 hours, every major business publication and gossip site had the story. Photos of Brielle and Julian at the gala circulated widely, along with speculation about their relationship, her rise at Harrington Global, and what the engagement meant for the company. Most of the coverage was positive. But not all of it. 2 weeks after the proposal, Brielle arrived at work to find her assistant looking worried. "Miss Thompson, you need to see this." She handed Brielle a tablet showing an article from Business Insider Weekly, a publication known for aggressive investigative reporting. The headline made her stomach drop. "Rags to riches or calculated climb." The real story behind Brielle Thompson's engagement to billionaire CEO Julian Harrington. The article was vicious. It claimed Brielle had fabricated her humble background to gain sympathy. It suggested her grandmother hadn't actually raised her but that Brielle had been living comfortably with her father the whole time. It insinuated that she'd deliberately targeted Julian, using the accidental text message as a manipulation tactic. Worst of all, it included quotes from anonymous Harrington Global employees saying she was unqualified, that she'd seduced the CEO for power and money, that the healthcare integration project was failing because of her incompetence. Every word was either false or twisted beyond recognition. But it was presented as investigative journalism, complete with sources and documents. Brielle's hands shook as she read. This wasn't just gossip. This was a coordinated attack designed to destroy her reputation and credibility. Who wrote this? She asked. The byline says Amanda Foster, but the real story is who gave her the information. Her assistant pulled up another screen. I did some digging. The article was pitched to the publication by a PR firm that works exclusively for Anderson Technologies. Richard Anderson. Still trying to destroy them even after the failed takeover. Julian stormed into her office moments later, his own tablet in hand. Have you seen this garbage? Just read it. We're suing them. Defamation, libel, intentional infliction of emotional distress. I'm calling our legal team right now. Wait. Brielle set down the tablet. Before you do that, I need to handle this my way. Your way? Brielle, they're destroying your reputation based on complete lies. I know. And that's why I need to respond, not you. She stood and met his eyes. If you fight this battle for me, it proves their point. That I'm just the girlfriend hiding behind her powerful boyfriend. I need to stand up for myself. Julian wanted to argue. She could see it in his face, the desire to protect her from this ugliness. But after a long moment, he nodded. What do you need? I need documentation. Everything that proves the article is false. My grandmother's employment records, my college transcripts, performance reviews from before I ever met you, testimonials from the hospital networks about the project. I need truth to fight lies. You'll have it within the hour. Brielle spent the rest of the day building her case. She called everyone who'd been quoted anonymously in the article, asking if they'd actually said those things. Most were horrified, claiming they'd been misquoted or taken out of context. A few admitted that Amanda Foster had offered them money for negative comments about Brielle. She documented everything, building a comprehensive response that addressed each false claim with evidence and facts. That evening, she wrote a statement and posted it on her professional social media accounts. Yesterday, Business Insider Weekly published an article about me that contained numerous false statements and malicious lies. Rather than hide behind lawyers or allow others to fight this battle, I'm addressing it directly. My grandmother, Rose Thompson, was a housekeeper who raised me alone after my mother's death. I have her employment records, tax returns, and the testimony of dozens of people who knew her. This is not a fabricated story. It's my life. I did not target Julian Harrington. I accidentally sent him a text message meant for my deceased grandmother. Anyone who knows me understands that I would never manipulate anyone, especially not about grief. I am qualified for my position. I have a degree in business analytics, 2 years of excellent performance reviews, and results that speak for themselves. The healthcare integration project is not failing. It's succeeding beyond projections, and I have documentation from our hospital partners to prove it. I won't be intimidated into silence. I won't let lies define my truth. And I won't apologize for working hard, earning opportunities, and falling in love with a good man. She attached documents supporting each claim, then hit publish. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Former colleagues vouched for her work ethic. Her college professors confirmed her academic achievements. The hospital networks released statements praising the healthcare project. Even some of the anonymous sources from the original article came forward to admit they'd been manipulated. Within 6 hours, Business Insider Weekly had pulled the article and issued a retraction. Within 12 hours, Amanda Foster had been fired. Within 24 hours, evidence emerged that Richard Anderson had paid the publication to run the hit piece. The story shifted from, "Did Brielle Thompson seduce a billionaire?" to "Why are powerful men threatened by successful women?" But Brielle wasn't satisfied with just clearing her name. She wanted to make sure Anderson couldn't hurt anyone else. She called a press conference for the following Monday. Julian offered to stand beside her, but she declined. This needed to be her voice, her moment. The conference room at Harrington Global was packed with reporters. Cameras flashed as Brielle took her seat at the table. She wore a green power suit and the engagement ring that caught the light as she arranged her notes. "Thank you for coming," she began. "I'm here to discuss the recent article about me and to address some larger issues about how successful women are treated in business." She walked through everything she'd discovered. The payment from Anderson Technologies to Business Insider Weekly. The pressure put on employees to make negative comments. The deliberate campaign to destroy her credibility because she was dating the CEO of a competing company. "This isn't just about me," Brielle continued. "It's about every woman who's ever had her accomplishments attributed to her appearance or her relationships rather than her abilities. It's about the double standard that says a man's success is deserved but a woman's must be explained." She paused, then looked directly into the cameras. "I'm not going to pretend I got here entirely on my own. Julian Harrington saw potential in me and gave me opportunities to prove myself. But giving someone a chance isn't nepotism. It's leadership. And what I did with those chances is all me." A reporter raised her hand. "Miss Thompson, do you think women in business should avoid dating their superiors to prevent accusations like these? I think women in business should be judged on their work, not their personal lives. I think we should stop telling women to make themselves smaller or less visible to avoid making men uncomfortable." Brielle's voice strengthened. "I fell in love with my boss. That's unconventional, yes. But it's also real, honest, and none of anyone else's business unless it affects job performance." Which it hasn't. Another reporter spoke up. "What about the power imbalance? How do you address concerns about that?" "By being transparent. By working twice as hard as anyone else to prove my worth. By accepting that some people will always question my achievements and deciding I don't care what they think." Brielle smiled. "The people whose opinions matter, the ones who actually know me and my work, they know the truth. That's enough." After the press conference, Brielle returned to her office to find it filled with flowers. Arrangements from colleagues, from the hospital network partners, from employees she'd never even met. All offering support and congratulations. Julian appeared in her doorway, leaning against the frame with an expression of pure admiration. "You were magnificent." "I was honest." Brielle stood and walked into his arms. "I'm tired of hiding, tired of apologizing, tired of letting other people define my story." "Good. Because you have nothing to apologize for." Julian held her close. "I'm proud of you. Aunt Patricia texted me during your press conference. She said Grandma Cecilia and your Grandma Rose are probably having a party in heaven, celebrating their grandchildren." Brielle laughed through happy tears. "I hope so. I really hope so." That evening the news cycle had completely shifted. Business publications ran stories about the glass ceiling, about successful women being targeted, about the need for change in how female executives were perceived and treated. Brielle's press conference went viral, with women around the world sharing their own stories of having their success questioned or diminished. Richard Anderson released a statement denying any involvement in the hit piece, but the evidence was overwhelming. His board forced him out as CEO of Anderson Technologies within the week. The company's stock plummeted as partners distanced themselves from the scandal. Meanwhile, Harrington Global's stock reached an all-time high. The healthcare integration project secured 2 additional hospital network partnerships. And Brielle received job offers from 4 Fortune 500 companies, all of which she politely declined. She had everything she needed right where she was. A week later, as she and Julian had dinner at home, she raised her glass. "To truth winning over lies. To strong women who fight for themselves," Julian added. "To grandmothers who taught us to never back down," Brielle finished. They clinked glasses and drank to victories hard-won in love that had survived every test thrown at it. 6 months later, spring had transformed the city into a canvas of blooming trees and warm sunshine. The healthcare integration project had officially launched in all 3 hospital networks, exceeding every projection. Patient outcomes had improved by 35%, costs had decreased by 22%, and the waiting list of other hospitals wanting to join the program was 50 deep. Brielle stood in her office, which was now even larger than before, with a view that stretched all the way to the river. She'd been promoted to senior vice president, overseeing not just healthcare but all of Harrington Global's social impact initiatives. On her desk sat a framed photo of Grandma Rose, smiling in her church dress, and beside it, a photo of Brielle and Julian from the engagement gala. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. "Lunch this week? I have good news to share." Marcus had been sober for 8 months now, his diabetes under control, and he'd recently been promoted to regional logistics manager. Their relationship was still careful, still healing, but it was real. He showed up when he said he would, called on holidays, and had even started attending a support group for parents reconnecting with their children. Brielle texted back, Wednesday at noon. Can't wait to hear the news. Caroline appeared in her doorway. Miss Thompson, the car is here to take you to the venue. Already? Brielle checked her watch. I thought I had another hour. Mr. Harrington moved the timeline up. He said something about wanting to marry you sooner rather than later. Brielle laughed. Today was their wedding day. After months of planning, they decided on an intimate ceremony with just 50 guests in the garden behind Aunt Patricia's Connecticut house. The reception would be at the same museum where they'd gotten engaged, but the ceremony itself would be small and personal. The drive to Connecticut felt both too long and too short. Brielle's bridesmaid, her college roommate Shanice, chattered nervously about last-minute details, but Brielle felt surprisingly calm. This was right. This was exactly where she was meant to be. Aunt Patricia's garden had been transformed into a wonderland of white roses and twinkling lights, even though it was mid-afternoon. Chairs were arranged in neat rows, and a simple white arbor marked where the ceremony would take place. In the house, Aunt Patricia helped Brielle into her wedding dress, a simple but elegant gown in the softest ivory silk. You look like an angel, child. I feel like I'm in a dream. Brielle smoothed the dress. 6 months ago, I was just a junior analyst working too many hours and missing my grandmother. Now I'm marrying the love of my life and running programs that actually help people. That's what happens when you're brave enough to be yourself and accept love when it finds you. Aunt Patricia fastened the pearl necklace that had belonged to Grandma Cecilia around Brielle's neck. My sister would have loved you. And I know your grandmother is watching over you today. The ceremony was beautiful in its simplicity. Marcus walked Brielle down the aisle, tears streaming down his face as he placed her hand in Julian's. Take care of my girl, he whispered to Julian. I promise, Julian replied. They'd written their own vows. Julian went first, his voice steady but emotional. Brielle, you came into my life when I'd forgotten what it meant to truly connect with someone. You reminded me that success means nothing without someone to share it with. You showed me that vulnerability is strength, that kindness is power, and that love is the most important work we'll ever do. I promise to stand beside you, not above you. I promise to celebrate your victories and support you through challenges. I promise to love you every single day for the rest of our lives. Brielle took a shaky breath before speaking her vows. Julian, my grandmother used to tell me that the right person would see me, really see me, and love what they found. You saw me on a night when I was at my lowest, grieving and exhausted, and instead of turning away, you stepped closer. You've given me opportunities to grow, the freedom to be myself, and the courage to dream bigger than I ever thought possible. I promise to be your partner in every sense of the word. I promise to challenge you when you need it and support you always. I promise to build a life with you that honors where we came from while reaching for where we want to go. When the officiant pronounced them married and Julian kissed her, Brielle felt something shift in the universe. A completion. A rightness. A sense that every hardship she'd endured had led her exactly here. The reception that evening was a celebration of love, family, and possibility. Trevor Park, who'd become a good friend through working on the healthcare project, gave a toast about Brielle's brilliance and work ethic. Dorothy Chin spoke about leadership and the courage it takes to stand up for what's right. Aunt Patricia shared stories about both Julian's and Brielle's grandmothers, honoring their memories. But the most touching moment came when Marcus stood to speak. He looked nervous, gripping his glass of sparkling water. I don't have any right to stand here today, he began. I wasn't there when Brielle needed a father. I let my own mama raise my daughter while I ran from responsibility. But Brielle, in her grace and kindness, gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. She helped me get sober, find work, and reconnect with the daughter I'd abandoned. His voice broke. Watching you today, seeing the incredible woman you've become, I'm so proud. And I'm so grateful to Mama Rose for doing what I couldn't. She raised you right. She taught you to be strong and kind and brave. I see her in you every day. Brielle went to her father and hugged him, both of them crying. Thank you for trying, Dad. Thank you for showing up. I'll keep showing up, Marcus promised. For as long as you'll let me. Late in the evening, after most guests had left, Brielle and Julian stood in the museum garden, looking out at the city lights. Her head rested on his shoulder, his arms around her waist. Did you ever imagine this? Julian asked. That night when you sent me that text message, did you imagine it would lead here? No. I imagined getting fired. Brielle laughed. But I should have known better. Grandma Rose always said that the best blessings come from the most unexpected places. She was a wise woman. The wisest. Brielle turned in his arms to face him. I wish she could have met you. She would have loved you. I wish I could have known her. But I feel like I do through you. Through the way you treat people, the way you work, the way you love. Julian kissed her forehead. You carry her with you, Brielle? That's beautiful. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge one by one. Somewhere in the city below, the healthcare integration program was helping patients get better care. The Rose Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund was helping children being raised by grandparents. Harrington Global was thriving under leadership that valued both profit and purpose. And two people who'd found each other through an accidental text message were building a life together, one rooted in love, honesty, and the courage to be vulnerable. Thank you, Brielle whispered to the stars, to her grandmother, to whatever force in the universe had brought her and Julian together. And as if in answer, a shooting star streaked across the sky, bright and beautiful and gone in an instant, leaving only the memory of light. Julian pulled her closer. Ready to go home, Mrs. Harrington? Brielle smiled, loving the sound of her new name while honoring the one she'd carried with such pride. Ready. Let's go home. They walked back to the reception hall hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Together, the way they'd handle everything from this moment forward. Together, the way Grandma Rose and Grandma Cecilia would have wanted. Together, exactly as it should be.